Welcome to Masters of Product Management, powered by Sequent Learning Networks, a show that provides extraordinary insights for product managers who want to go faster and farther in their product management careers.
Hello, this is JJ Rory, Vice President at Sequent Learning Networks. In our Masters of Product Management podcast, we tap into the experiences of people who work in and around product management to help you learn and grow in your product management career. You've likely heard of the jobs to be done theory, popularized by Harvard Business School professor Clayton Christensen. Jobs to be done is a framework for better understanding customer behavior. The theory being that customers don't buy products, they hire those products to do a job. As Theodore Levitt said in the 1960s, people don't want to buy a quarter-inch drill, they want a quarter-inch hole. Another way to say that is, no one needs your product, a phrase that I first heard from my colleague, James Lutzy. No one needs your product? Wow. What they actually need is what it can do for them. And Jobs to be Done is a good framework to keep this perspective as we're building and designing solutions for our customers. Many organizations, large and small, have implemented the Jobs to be Done framework. Our guest today is here to talk with us about his experience with some of those organizations. Brian Rhea is a software developer and product designer and was an executive member of a venture-backed and exited startup. With years of experience navigating the competing priorities of engineering, product, sales, and customer support, Brian now helps companies ship profitable software. Brian, thank you so much for joining me today.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
So for those who are listening who don't know much about the Jobs to be Done theory and framework, can you give us the overview of what it is?
Yeah, I can. And I loved your summary of it there that you just gave, because it's harsh but true. People don't want to buy your thing. They don't want it and they don't care about it. What they want is to make some progress in an area of their life. And the Jobs to be Done framework, the theory, the lens, however you want to describe it, what it helps entrepreneurs, founders, product managers do is to think about it from that lens of somebody is hiring or firing your product to get a job done. And so to think about that from the metaphor of a company, you're going about your day-to-day operations and you start to feel some pain. Let's just say that designs aren't getting done in time, or the design process, the product design cycle, the whole thing is just a nightmare. You start to feel this pain. And so what do? You take a little bit of an assessment of the problem, decide that you need to fill that opening. And so you post a job opening to try to hire someone to help you as a company begin making progress in that area. And so an individual person does that same thing. They're going about their day-to-day life. They're trying to, reach some goal, trying to make some sort of progress, and they start to feel pain in a certain area. Status quo is not getting the job done, and so you post a job opening and look to pull something into your habits, pull something into your day-to-day life, not because you want that thing, but because you want to solve this pain that you've got. And so I think that's what attracts me to the verbiage, or that metaphor just completely resonates, because I think so often, if you think about it from that perspective, that people don't want to buy what you're offering in the same way that, listener, you're running a company or you're a part of a company. Somebody just shows up at your door with their resume and says, "Hey, I am a VP customer experience, wizard. So where's my desk?" Well, you're like, we don't have an opening for this at all. We don't need that right now. Thanks so much for coming by. You look highly qualified, and I'm sure you're making a lot of people very happy. We just don't have this opening. That is the same thing as quite a lot of interruptive marketing, just beating people over the head and saying, try out our thing, try our thing, try our thing. customers saying, I haven't posted that job opening right now. Is that helpful?
Yeah, that's fascinating. I love how you said that. Just basically, and that's what we do constantly as product managers and marketers. We just show up at someone's door, essentially, right? Their virtual door, and say, "Here I am. Here's my product." And that's just not how the world
No.
works. It's not what we need. And what's interesting about it is we're all consumers. We're all business consumers as well. We meaning product managers, and we know. But we fall into that rut quite often. So you've touched on this quite a bit. But what else is different about jobs to be done than some of the more traditional innovation processes?
Yeah, I think that's a great question because what makes the jobs to be done framework and approach to customer research different from traditional innovation processes is that it begins with a solution agnostic foundation. Like the whole approach is beginning from the position of we're not trying to just sort of tweak what the status quo currently is. We're just going to try to make a couple of changes here and there. We are trying to get to fundamentally across a range of demographics, across a range of consumers who are using entirely different products right now to solve a problem. We're going to try to get some insights out of that lead us to an entirely different category or solve it in an entirely different way. It just, for me, it's been something that has been helpful to see how much wider the horizon of potential solutions could be. That's the first thing that strikes me about it, and the other is that it's something I've observed is that this approach to customer research is something that product marketing and sales can all use. It spans silos within an organization, which is extreme. This is where I've just seen it be extremely helpful in having common and shared terminology and insights and outcomes and direction. So those are the things that I've observed and that I hear other people echoing as well.
Yeah, and I think that spanning silos is one of the most important things that jobs to be done can do for an organization. We all know that product management's a cross-functional role. It just simply has to be that way. And even though we understand it, we still put silo walls up from time to time, even inadvertently. So anything that can help us knock those down is helpful. Now, you work with organizations all the time that are implementing this type of framework. I see it as well. Our clients and different networking and professionals that I know are also dipping their toes in it. It's somewhat of an interesting or unique framework and a little bit difficult perhaps to get your head around, but we are seeing some progress here. So why do you think it's become so popular? Or maybe a different way to say that is, what are some of the key tenets that seem to resonate with your clients and some others?
So that's another really good question. Like why has it become so popular? I can only speak from my personal experience when I first was introduced to jobs to be done a good, I don't know how many years ago now, but there was something that initially the hiring and firing terminology at first felt a little bit awkward, but then once I kind of got my head around the metaphor of what it was representing, it just completely clicked. And so I think that's the first thing is I think that when you get that mental model in your head, it crystallizes or kind of gives a visual for what we've known for forever, which is don't sell features, sell benefits. Okay, well, say that 1,000 times and it's you just almost can't help it. But to want to push features until you think, okay, if I'm pushing features, then I am this candidate showing up with a really long resume with a ton of features or work history. I'm showing up at the doorstep of a company saying, hey, this is why you want to hire me. And that is not going to be effective. And so that's something that I think just, tends to tends to connect and resonate with folks. I think also it was, kind of a perfect storm of, as you mentioned, Clayton Christensen, that, he had begun to share his work and research. I think also a number of, quite influential, companies began to talk about it at the exact same time. People like at Basecamp and Intercom, and, plenty of others began to share their work. And so I think that's why it's, started to find a foothold. And then once it got in, what I was alluding to earlier, which is that, this is not just a a customer research framework. This is something that marketing, the marketing department can use to pull in messaging, positioning, actual copy. It's something that sales is going to find valuable, and it spans across those silos. And so I think that's why it has just continued to build momentum. And of course, I mean, the results are there as well, that it's something that forces everyone within the organization to say, if we're going to do this in practice, that's going to force us to understand what our customers truly want. And that means deprioritizing the visionary, the visionary within the company. And when that happens, you see results, you see traction, and people want to share it and refer it around. It's just it's a virtuous cycle in that way.
One of the things that I've seen is, especially in small startups or organizations such as that, is that they do have that visionary, right? And so they chase the shiny object.
Yes.
And when that happens, right, it's hard to implement something of this nature, because that idea, that shiny object, is the best. And so it's by its very nature jumping straight into that solution mode, as you said earlier, which is something that Jobs to be Done can avoid. So let's talk a little bit about how an organization would go about implementing this framework if they wanted to have the Jobs to be Done framework as part of their organization.
Yeah, great question, and many steps in the answer. I think that the first thing is to understand what type of innovation are you seeking to design, and this is going to depend upon the maturity of the organization. Because when I say what type of innovation are you seeking to design, this is what Clayton Christensen has described as either sustaining innovations or disruptive innovations. And so sustaining innovations are just think about the model of your car. If you're driving a 2018 minivan compared to 2005, fundamentally it's still a vehicle. They're extremely similar. But your 2018 has plenty more creature comforts that have been sustaining innovations along the way. It's why the 2018 is a little bit better than the 17, a little bit better than the 16, and so on. Those are completely fine. And if you are a well-established, mature organization that has product market fit, and you just need to continue to grow, then a sustaining innovation is perfectly acceptable. If you're a brand new startup and you truly are seeking to flip a market and change that part of your world forever, then you're talking about a disruptive innovation. The reason that I mention those is that as folks get more and more comfortable or more and more familiar with Jobs to be Done theory and approach and the materials that are all out there, you're going to start to see that there are different approaches and different flavors. And I want to say that, unfortunately, there's a little bit of tension or whatever between the camps. I don't subscribe to that. I think that you can get a ton of value from what I will say is the qualitative approach that has been shared and popularized by Christensen, Bob Mesta of the Rework Group, and their approach. And they take a very qualitative research approach to their interviews, to the insights that they're trying to glean, and the way that they go about it. Okay. The other side of the coin is a very data-oriented, quantitative approach that Tony Ulwick, in his book "What Customers Want," gives a very detailed, step-by-step way to implement this. And so the reason that I give all of that as the preface to your question about how should an organization go about implementing it is I think it's extremely important to know who you are as a company. And are you the sort of, is your company the sort of place where a data-centric, very quantitative approach to customer research and innovation design is going to find a home? You should probably start by reading What Customers Want. Are you design oriented? Or is your company much more early enough that vision and heart and great sweeping changes are the things that you are setting out to do? Okay, then read everything that Christensen has to say on this topic, beginning with Competing Against Luck. And so I hope that that's helpful in either of those cases where you are going to be led, whether you follow Ulwick or follow Christensen and Mesta, is to begin by doing customer interviews. And you don't need to do 20. That's going to be overkill. You're going to hit diminishing returns at around 8. But what you want to do is find a set of your best customers. Who are the customers that you feel are leading you in the direction of the future that you envision for yourself? Interview 5 to 8 of those folks, and learn about their workflow. Learn about what it is they are trying to get done, not what features they're asking for, not what features they want you, what they like, that they don't like, that they're using or not using. Why did they decide to sign up for your service to begin with? Why did they sign up for your trial? What is going on in their world that led them to seek out the solution that you're providing? Get into those details, get those insights, and that's what's going to lead you to growth.
I think that's such really good advice. I think one of the things that I've noticed when I work with organizations is that almost all of them believe that they are a data-centric organization or need to be a data-centric organization because they're inundated with content and talking heads, and everyone's telling them about all of this valuable data. And I've run global product for a data and analytics product line before, so I get it, and I truly believe in data. But I like how you outlined the difference between Christensen and Ulwick, and how an organization has a DNA, if you will, right?
Yes.
And it's okay to be to rely on qualitative, almost anecdotal information. That is actually not a bad thing, and I think organizations need to get over that. Yeah. So thank you so much. That was amazing kind of view into that. So from the organizations you've worked with or you're familiar with, what results have you seen that for those that have followed the framework? Yeah.
So I mean, at a high level, just the clarity and shared vision that across the silos that we've been talking about. It's a little bit hard to measure the intangible results of that, but to start to see multiple teams working together and being greater than the sum of their parts, because we have a shared language, a shared understanding of our customer and what they're trying to get done, which goes a level deeper than what we know who our personas are, and we can describe their demographics. That's better than nothing. But to have a shared understanding of this is the job that we are helping people to get done, then the synergy that comes out of that is just it's invaluable. Getting into a little bit more detail, like my clients are seed stage to, like, say, Series B startups, and so they're still on this journey, constantly tweaking their messaging and tweaking the product to find product market fit, which is it's the right thing to do at that stage. It's not a criticism. And Jobs to be Done introduces like this bit of a guiding light that, additional demographics and nuanced corner cases that are always going to come up. Those details are going to keep moving. But when we have this handful of the core jobs to be done that help our customers get, do their work better, easier, cheaper than the existing solutions, ideally a combination of those things, it provides some momentum and a bit of a guiding light.
Great. So any final words of wisdom for our listeners?
Not necessarily wisdom, but hopefully you've found any of this helpful. And so if so, you can go to brianrhea.com/JTBD, as in jobs to be done. Rhea is spelled RHEA. But if you go to brianrhea.com/JTBD, then you can get a batch of resources that I've collected and created over the years, interview templates, swipe files for sending emails, just note-taking tools, that sort of thing that I think you'll find helpful in getting things kicked off. I've got a 6-part Jobs to be Done email course that you can find as well. And if podcasts are your thing, I also host a podcast called Bright and Early with early stage founders, and you can find that at brightandearlypodcast.com.
Great. Awesome. Well, thank you again. This has been such a fun discussion, a very important one. Jobs to be Done is just a really good theory and framework. And you've laid it out today in a way that paints a clear picture of some of the ways that it can benefit organizations. So, Brian Rhea, thank you again so much for joining me and sharing your expertise on this.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
And thank you for joining us on Masters of Product Management, powered by Sequent Learning Networks. I am JJ Rory, and I look forward to speaking with you on the next episode.
You've been listening to Masters of Product Management, powered by Sequent Learning Networks. If you'd like to take your career to the next level with additional tools, training, coaching, and books, be sure to visit Sequent Learning Networks at sequentlearning.com.